I feel like all of these fears are really it's the same core fear of
within yourself.
Yeah.
Brené Brown, extremely famous social researcher, storyteller, psychologist, has advocated for the power of vulnerability and its role as really a gateway to love, joy, empathy, courage, and compassion. But she began her journey actually studying shame and scarcity, that feeling that we don't have enough or that we aren't enough. And she soon realized that vulnerability is really at the core of wholehearted living. In our discussions, I asked respondents to anonymously write down a fear that they had, and we exchanged them. And I asked them to speak as if the fear that they received was theirs, fostering empathy and allowing them to truly reflect on those underlying feelings. So here's what emerged. So who wants to go?
I'll go. I do not like being at home alone. I do not like just silence. Mm-hmm. I like to go out and I like to be amongst people.
So what was the fear that
being truly alone.
Okay. And how would you be feeling?
Scared. Scared because I'm alone and I feel like no one likes me and I don't have any friends and I'm being ignored and being left out. Excluded.
Fear of not being accepted. So, nervous, closed off, protective.
And I think it's something, again, I'm not sure if anybody else, but I think a lot of us can resonate with that.
For sure. There are so many things external to us, right? Growing up, you think you're invincible. Every boy thinks he's Superman, and every girl is Wonder Woman, right? And you can conquer the world. You can jump off buildings. You can fly. And as you become conscious that there are others external to you that can have an impact on the way you feel and can say, I don't like you. I don't like your shirt. I don't like the way you look. Then that creates a sense of, okay, well, I'm not good enough? Or how come my shirt isn't nice enough for this person to like it, right? And so I think it's very, very easy to fall into the trap of allowing what other people think of you to actually be what you think of yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I talk a little bit about in the book that I'm launching any day now was not just people distant from us, but the people closest to us. When there's a cycle of intimacy and vulnerability. And even if you've known somebody for 10, 15 years, there's still going to be vulnerable moments. And unless you choose to risk that and risk the possibility of being rejected, then you can't really fully be accepted.
There's a lot of head nods.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I would throw it out there
too,
to those 4 examples. Is there anything that comes to mind that would, can you think of a time that this might have happened to you? And sorry, you can go.
Well, I just can't help feeling but that I think that there's something in us that is so innate that's been, handed down through our genes that is that,
Well, if I can expand a little bit, that need for belonging.
I find that the whole idea about being relational, it's woven into our being. And that sense of belonging is about both. Me belonging to someone, but me belonging to someone or other people as me. That idea of I am an individual, but I am a part of something. So there's always that perpetual sense of I am me, you're you, we're different, but we're the same. It's that doing that dance all the time for the rest of our lives, especially when you think about there are a lot of assumptions and expectations, whether we're talking about marriage or something else, that, now we're together and, what's next? How can we conquer the world, together? But in order to stay together, it's so important that we know each other progressively for the rest of our lives. That way we don't grow apart, because we change every day. Something new happens every day, and if we don't share, or better yet, we screw up. We mess something up every day, and if we don't have the ability to be like, okay, yeah, this wasn't so great, or I'm embarrassed about this, or I really don't want to tell you about this, but I'm going to take the chance. And then when you do, and it's met with acceptance and understanding, I don't think anything can compare to that.
Some individuals even expressed a fear that emerged from aspects that we don't have the ability or privilege to change.
My intention behind writing Fear of Being Accepted, it's not right exactly related to self-acceptance or something personal. It's about the fear of being not accepted because something which is not in your control. That's your race, your color, where you're coming from. And so you might be feeling in an environment where I know everyone here, and we are all working together. We're all friends. But the sense of feeling you being alienated or seeing different. So that's the intention behind writing the card.
And that's something that, you talked about that aspect of race and color, and that's so out of our control, but it's also so ingrained in us from a very young age.
Actually, I had something I want to say very similar to actually both what you both were saying. So there's that, and also the rejection, the fear of rejection. So just how I grew up as a child, I was one of few people of color in my town. So the not being accepted for things that I can't change. But I think looking back now, I think that experience was better for me, because then I learned that it didn't matter what I did. They wouldn't accept me if they couldn't accept me as I was. So, I tried to change how I talked, I tried to change how I dressed, but I couldn't change the thing that made me different. So I learned young to just do whatever I wanted, whoever liked me, right? And then you realize there are certain things you just can't change. Yeah. But then on the other hand, you still want acceptance from the people that are close to you. Maybe, I got to the point where I'm like, well, I don't care what, they think about me anymore, but I still care about what my circle thinks. And I think if you do get rejection, then you think there's something wrong with me, right? Is there something wrong with me? Am I being rejected because there's something wrong with me? Or maybe we just moved in two different paths and it's just time to move on, right? So there's that moment of is it me? Do I need to change this? Or is this just where we are now?
How many people out there care enough about something like that?
This phenomena, this fear of not being accepted or not belonging, emerged in all the groups.
I'm afraid of moving or restarting. This wasn't my fear, but it actually is my fear as well. And I didn't realize, but it's just a big, huge bubble of fear. You don't know if it's time, you don't know if things are gonna come crashing down, you don't know, it's scary to just even take the first step.
I was gonna say, it kind of is segueing into this one, because it says, I fear lack of belonging. And that's exactly what that is. I think starting over and making a decision, it almost feels like there's a formula in life and you follow the formula. How dare you break free of that formula and actually do what you feel is the best thing for you in that moment, aside from, following whatever your parents told you, and this is exactly what you should be doing. 2 + 2 always equals 4. And I think that the lack of belonging and the starting over is so tied together.
So where do our fears even come from? And what place do they have in our lives? Why do so many people fear not belonging or not feeling accepted?
Well, our fears come from our core beliefs. They're basically like our inner child being afraid of the world. And that fear can easily translate into anxiety or depression if we constantly are being controlled by those fears. What I try to do in therapy is build an accurate, healthy sense of self. Because once you have an accurate sense of self, you can approach those fears and manage to parent them, because they're really just scared parts of ourselves that want someone, an adult, to take care of them. To say, yes, I know you're really afraid of speaking out in groups, and we've done presentations here and here, and we've done really well. I think we can do this. If we're able to pull on our, our own experience where we were successful, we can calm that fear because we're taking control of it. If we can't, if we don't have a good sense of self, the fears get even more frightened because, there's no one taking care of me. This is a very frightening experience, and then you can go into a panic attack or just have, generalized anxiety all the time. I think that whenever we have a new experience, it ignites that fear of not belonging. We're moving into an environment where we may not have a contact person that we can bridge our anxiety, talk to them, and them introduce us to others. And so when we go into new environments, if we don't have that, or if that bridge isn't secure, we start to feel like we're an outsider. And as we become an outsider, we isolate ourselves, and we don't share and talk about how scary this experience is, and we think that that's only us experiencing that. And the reality is that all of us have those kinds of fears, and if we can actually speak them in a safe environment, people will say, yeah, I have a fear like that, and all of a sudden it kind of melts away and feels like, oh, this is normal, this is human, this is what the human experience is.